Hello everyone, my name is Luna, and this is my first podfic. Today I'm going to be reading Fall Into a Hole You Can See, the Friends on the Inside remix by arealsword. The summary is, there are intruders in Thomas's head. Janus is not happy, to put it lightly. The extraction was sliding along smoother than stocking feet on a well-polished ballroom floor until the Snake Man showed up. Snake Man, there's probably a better way to refer to him than that, because he looks like a great deal of many things. Even putting aside the half of his face that looks like it's been wallpapered over with a zoo gift-topped fashion section. Kid's cartoon villain, absurdly dressed Victorian gentleman, even down to the hat and the gloves and the weird half-cape thing draped around his shoulders. And oh yes, of course, yet another exact duplicate of their target. He's just walked into the hastily thrown together library that makes up this level of the dream like he owns the damn place. Jesus, mutters the architect, nervously adjusting her sunglasses. How many of these guys are we going to bump into today? They're sitting closest to the big bay windows that make up the far end of the library. The Snake Man's on the other side of the room, and he's very clearly looking for someone. Not the Sanders guy. He's reading at the table just 2 away from theirs. Nobody else has looked up, so this either is a glitch of some sort, or something else is going on. Probably a narcissist is their forger's hushed opinion, right? There's gotta be something wrong with them. Weirdest narcissist I've ever seen, says Steele, keeping his voice low. They should be professional, really, but they're right about this. This is really weird, and he can't help but comment on it. If he were a full egocentric bastard, all the projections would look exactly like him, too, but there's only a handful of them. 4 so far, says the second in command. She's apparently been keeping count instead of doing more important things. There were 2 on the first level, this guy's the second one down here. God, look at his face. If this is a self-absorption thing, then Saturn has some serious self-image issues. Do they feel self-aware to you? The architect wonders. Like, they interacted with us more than any projections I've ever met. They actually instigated conversation with us, and I swear the one with the glasses and the tie was starting to catch on before we dropped off to this level. That's Steph's problem, though, says the forger. Besides, this book's subconscious is pretty much the tamest one we've seen since we've had to hack a 6-year-old. Remember that? I don't think old glasses and tie up there is going to do anything worse than lecture angrily at her. The architect huffs. You say that now. Wait until his weird, sexy glasses clone pulls out a gun or something on her. All of you shut up, Steele hisses, kicking the architect under the table. He's looking at us. Everyone ducks their head and fakes extreme interest in the identical copies of the extremely fake book they're all pretending to read. Sanders? The forger asks, tapping a blurry, unreadable passage from the middle of the book with feigned fascination. No, says Steele. That clone of his. Snake Guy's mismatched eyes are traveling across everyone in the library as he strolls across the room in a smooth, nonchalant manner that's probably calculatedly laid back. No, wait, what is Steele saying? Projections can't calculate or plan. They're purely reactive. This is probably just an overblown personality quirk overlain on him, nothing more. And is it just his imagination, or is that unsettling gaze of his lingering on them just a few 2 seconds long? But no, he's not even paying attention to them anymore. He's walking past them, and he's not even sparing them a second glance. They only pull a hasty evacuation. They're fine. Everyone lets out silent sighs of relief and slumps a little. Everyone except Steele, because apparently he's the only damn professional here. Fuck me, exclaims his second command abruptly under her breath. He's going for Sanders. He's what? The architect nearly drops her book and scrambles to pick it up. Is that allowed? Apparently so. Snake Clone sits down across from Sanders, and Sanders looks up from his book. He looks puzzled for a few seconds, but then recognition glints in his eyes and he breaks out into a wide smile. He says something cheerful but inaudible. Snake Clone smiles a smile that's just on the edge of being a smirk, and replies in kind, equally inaudible. Dream logic? His second command wonders, leaning in close. Or do you think he actually knows this guy? Maybe someone he knows in real life, the architect offers. You know, a subconsciously generated version of them drawn from memories. Someone he knows in real life who happens to look exactly like him? And also have fucking skulls over their face? Sure, the forger says. My bet's on weird, wild, kinky fantasy. Narcissist, I'm telling you. It doesn't matter, Steele growls. We just need to get the Sanders alone and keep away from the projections. And get the hell out of here. We can't be that far out from the kick, even on this level. And we've got to get the info out of him somehow. It wasn't supposed to be a hard job. It was supposed to be one of those honey sweet oil slick in and outs. A quick nab of information from a regular guy who's probably never even thought about having to protect his dreams from intruders, let alone taking any steps to actually do so. The plan was to hop into the first layer of the Sanders dreaming subconscious during a long plane ride, getting the script details from the inside of his brain and getting the hell out of the Dodge before he even knows we're there. But right now they're 3 layers deep, and every time they think they're getting close to actually interacting with the Sanders guy, he's whisked away by another one of those goddamn clone projections of his to God knows where. It shouldn't be possible for someone to neatly avoid Steele and his team in the confines of what the architect quite reliably informs him is a very enclosed dream. But somehow he's managing it, even though Steele could have sworn blind that Sanders doesn't have any dream training. It can't go any deeper than this without getting into some extremely risky territory, and that's something that Steele doesn't want to chance. Especially not for a relatively low-paying heist for a goddamn audition script. So it's this level or nothing. All they have to do is get Sanders alone. Just for a few seconds. That's all they need. He's trying to figure out what their next move here should be when the architect throws her book down, properly this time, and scrambles frantically to her feet, causing several projections around her to turn and look, staring unnervedly. "What are you doing?" his second-in-command demands, reaching to grab her arm. "They're leaving!" the architect snaps back, jostling wildly, and indeed they are. Sanders and his identical snake clone are headed towards a door that definitely hadn't been there only a few seconds before, and almost certainly wasn't one the carefully plotted map the architect had shown them all of them only a few days ago. And they're messing with my design! Steele is on his feet too. So much for subtlety. Jesus Christ, motherfucker, god damn it all. Okay, we're going, Mr. Charles. I'm taking point. Everyone else make themselves scarce. Assorted nods, and they scatter. And Steele is taking long, striding steps towards Sanders and the creepy, self-aware projection thing that's accompanying him. Fast, but not fast enough that all the other projections start to turn on him. He tries to remember the target's first name. Timothy? No, Thomas. Thomas, that's it. Thomas! He urges, urgent, but carefully not too panicked. For this to work, he's got to sound professional. Thomas, stop. Sanders does stop, and so does the snake man. They both turn to look at him. Sanders looks mildly puzzled, but the snake man looks downright hostile. He's not happy to see Steele in the least. "Hello?" Sanders says. "We were just going to, lunch," supplies the snake man. He's not glaring precisely, but there's a stew to his gaze that is absolutely radiating fury, like a broken furnace. His tone bleeds blatant insincerity. And I'm sorry, Mr. Whoever you're meant to be, but I only have a very limited amount of time to enjoy Thomas's company today. We don't really have time to talk. Farewell, good day. Come on, Thomas, we're leaving." "Janus!" exclaims Sanders, apparently horrified. "Apologize. He didn't do anything." "Are you quite sure about that?" Janus apparently shoots back and loops an arm neatly to Sanders' own. "We are leaving out of the door with you. Let's go." And with that, they're heading away from him, which means it's time to act. The Mr. Charles gammon wasn't designed for this, but it's not like Steele has many other options. "Thomas, you're dreaming," says Steele briskly. "This is a dream. Do you understand me? None of this is real." Sanders stumbles, pulling the two of them to a halt. The snake man attempts to tug him onwards, but Sanders pulls away from him and looks over at Steele with wide eyes. What are you? "Don't panic," Steele says. "It's essential that you don't panic. Just listen to me, and step away from the man next to you, and everything will be all right." "Oh," says the snake man, turning ever so slowly to face him. "Oh, very clever. Do go on. I can't wait to hear where you're going with this." "My name is Mr. Charles," says Steele, ignoring him and addressing Sanders directly. "My job is to protect you from any attempt to access your mind through your dreams." Sanders is frowning, but at least he's not running away. And he's resisting his companion's repeated attempts to tug him through the door only inches away, so that's a definite bonus. Access my mind? Like telepathy? No, well, yes, let's go with that. It's close enough. "Thomas, you apparently possess some knowledge that a bunch of exceptionally unpleasant people are very determined to get their hands on, and you have the knowledge to be able to avoid them, even if you aren't consciously aware of that." He taps his own chest. "That's me. I'm your training. I'm here to help you." He scowls, and it's barely faked. "And I'm also here to tell you that the person right next to you is probably one of those unpleasant people I just mentioned." "Me?" One of the snake man's gloved hands rises swiftly and smoothly to his chest. My goodness, what an accusation! I'm shocked and astonished. Thomas, aren't you shocked and astonished? I, says Steele to Sanders, trying to stay resolute in the face of a complication which has literally never been a problem, not in all the 20 years he's been doing this. I'm a projection of your subconscious. I'm here in your head, here to protect you, in case that extractors pull you into a dream, and it's becoming increasingly obvious that that's exactly what's happening here. Sanders visibly takes a moment to process. This is a lot, he says, and I'm not entirely sure I believe you. Steele hesitates and then takes a calculated risk. Don't you think it's slightly strange that this friend of yours, Janus was it, looks almost identical to you? Says Sanders. He blinks. No? No? Why would it be? Sanders says blankly. I mean, he's Janus. I think it'd be stranger if he didn't look like me, right? It's at this point that the Snake Man starts laughing, and after a moment he starts clapping as well, slow and steady, mocking and tangibly insincere. Oh, well done, you. Very well done. What a gamut. How very clever of you. I'm sure it would have worked well if he had picked literally anyone but me to play it with. Steele was starting to get a little fed up with this guy. Scratch that. He's very fed up, and more than a little pissed off. He doesn't want to have to deal with some weird cryptic snake man 3 levels deep. He wants the script, he wants his payment, and he wants to go back to his hotel room to take whatever cocktail of drugs he can get into himself so he can sleep dreamlessly for another 12 hours or so. He grits his teeth and addresses this Janus person properly for the first time. Look, who even are you? You're not meant to be here, whoever you are. Your name is Mr. Charles, and you're here to protect Thomas? His smile extends all the way up one cheek, the slick quilting curling coming up to the end at his ear. Now that's an interesting claim. I could have sworn that was my job. Oh shit, Steele thinks, panic shooting through him, because that isn't right. The Mr. Charles thing isn't supposed to actually be real. Interesting ploy, he says. I especially enjoy the bit where you claim you're the one who's in control here. It's almost funny. Oh, it's cute how you think you're anything close to being in control, the Snake Man says with a smile that doesn't grace his eyes in the least, and reaches out to take Sanders' hand. The moment he does, every projection in sight, and there are hundreds in this library, snap their heads around to look, not at Sanders, not at the Snake Man, directly at Steele. And is it just his imagination, or are their gaze a million times more intense than any projection he's ever dealt with? Eyes on him, from every angle, the pressure crushing into him like a sentient tsunami. Oh, they can't see us, the Snake Man says, and his smile widens, perks of being the little inside man. To be clear, Sanders says, this is a dream. This guy's the actual intruder in my head, and he just tried to convince me that you were out to get me. Got it 3 and 3. You're such a quick study these days, the Snake Man practically purrs. Any more questions? Well, Sanders looks down at their intertwined hands, and then up again. Am I actually in danger, and how do I get him out of here? You're safe, says the Snake Man. Sanders' face reads unconvinced all over. Try again. You're perfectly safe, he reiterates, as long as you're with me. From 2 rows of shelves over, he hears the forger scream, a pure animalistic terror sort of scream, quickly followed by, "What the fuck, who are?" and a wild, horrible cackle of pure delight that sends prickles of crawling discomfort all down his back. Sanders winces visibly, and makes as if to pull away, but the Snake Man tightens his grip firmly. Remus has this handled. This is his room now. But they're here to hurt you, remember? I'm not, Steele says, summoning every ounce of earnestness deep within him and letting it shine out of his face. I promise you, I am not. I don't know who they are, but Thomas, I'm here to help. Just let me. How about you don't try to lie to the biggest liar currently occupying Thomas's brain space? And better yet, how about you, how would a less dignified conceptual entity put it? Fuck off, forever? Why are you so angry? He hears Sanders mutter, and he hears the mother reply, There are intruders in your head. I think I'm entitled to be angry on our behalf. And then both of them are running. Sanders and the snake protection leap through the door together, and Steele is already sprinting after them, even as it begins to swing shut of its own accord. He gets his foot into the doorway, and the door slams painfully on it, sending a joint of agony all up his leg, but it's still just a crack open. And that's enough for him to dig his fingers around the edge and throw it open as well, and fling himself through just as the projections behind him begin to converge. He can still hear the forger screaming and the architect yelling, No, stop! This is my design! Steel chances a glance over his shoulder just before slamming the door shut and sees that the library has blurred and streaked outwards into a rainbow of incomprehensible nonsense, the production scattered and ever-shifting concepts with horrible animalistic faces and dripping melting skin. Steel slams the door shut because he honestly couldn't give a fuck about these people. They're working together, but that's it. If they're trapped in limbo forever, so be it. He knows the cue for the kick, and he knows how to snap himself up through the levels alone. And as long as Steph and the demo stick to their cues, at least he'll be getting out alive and conscious today. He turns and sees, well, it takes a moment for his eyes to focus and actually interpret what they're looking at. But it looks an awful lot like an abandoned, stuffed full to bursting attic. Sanders and the Snake Man are nowhere in sight, but that's not entirely surprising. It seems like it would be amazingly easy to get lost in forever. Scariest thing you can remember, he hears drifting to his ears from several meters away from him. Or is it? Space seems malleable here. The piles of junk piled upwards in every direction don't have any real depth to them, although they similarly look horribly bottomless. No, don't open your eyes. Don't think too hard about it. Scariest thing you can remember. Thomas, come on. Steel instinctively shuts his eyes against the warm, sunshine sweet light that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. If Sanders is being told that opening his eyes is a bad idea, it only follows that he should try and following the same advice. We're in Patton's room, aren't we? He hears Sanders say. Not a question. He has no idea who Patton is, but the fact they're in his room seems significant enough. Look at you, making deductions left, right, and center. Yes, I did check with him before you ask, and he was amenable enough when I explained the situation, although I don't suppose he grasped the full implications of what I had in mind. Wait, so we're weaponizing Patton's room? That's the plan. As much as I love to believe that trapping the majority of those intruders in the twins' room took care of them, I have my doubts. Best to be prepared. Steel listens hard and reaches out to steady himself against the nearest object, but as he touches something flat and boxy, he gets a surge of pure joy that's so tangible and real that it hurts him over and over and over again. It's enough to make him stagger backwards and yearn for more, and resolve to not touch anything in this room ever. He stops doubting himself and just follows the sound of their voices. They're not too far away, not if he just focuses and concentrates, one foot in front of the other. If he believes hard enough in himself, he won't crash into a thing. That's how it usually works anyway. That all seems kind of, well, cruel considering. Do you really want to debate the ethics of this? They're in your mind, possibly the most invasive thing you can possibly do to anyone. And it's not like we're really gonna kill them. Isn't it like if you die in a dream, you die in real life? Not here, says the Snake Man, which, well, that's a lie. Sanders' subconscious is lying to him about the consequences of dying 3 levels deep, and Steel isn't sure if he actually knows how wrong he is. Now, once more, scariest thing you can remember, nice and quick, if you please. A pause and a sigh, and Steel can feel it. He's nearly there. He's nearly close to them. If he can just shoot this protection, and he doesn't know what comes next. He definitely can't go deeper. Oh well, he's never been the best at plotting and planning. That's more Steph's department. He'll burn that bridge when he gets to it. Step 1, get rid of the Janus protection. Step 2, grab Sanders. Step 3, do whatever it takes to get out of here alive and sane. The spider exact, says Sanders, audibly reluctant. In the backyard, remember I was 5 years old, yes. Dreadful choice. I think he'll do just nicely. Horribly traumatizing. I can't imagine Patton would have wanted to keep it anywhere particularly prominent. Hold on for just a moment, will you? I'm not going anywhere. I just need to find it. Yeah, says Sanders, I know. Steel takes a risk and opens his eyes, and sees that Sanders is standing, eyes closed and arms crossed, in the middle of a particularly stagnant and cramped nook of this sprawling, junk-filled place. The Snake Man is knelt down a short distance away, digging his gloved fingers into the cracks of the floorboard. Had this place had floorboards before just a second ago? He swears he can remember them, but there's a faint, nagging sense of doubt there that he can't quite shake. As he processes this, he sees the Snake Man is straightening up. He is now holding a small, conty white object very carefully, pinched between 2 gloved fingers. His gaze locks onto Steel's quite firmly, and he breaks out into a wicked grin and says, "There you are, catch." And it's instinctive reflex for him to reach up and try and snatch the object out of the air as it comes sailing towards him, although he doesn't quite have the reflex to drop it before it bursts open, far larger than it should be in his hands, a wave of chittering, skittering, shiny black spiders that pour from it, flowing up his arms and into his sleeves and out to envelop his neck. and with it comes a memory of pure, senseless, childlike terror that makes him want to scream and sob until his lungs are dry and ragged and call out for a mother who's long, long gone. Distantly he hears and off we go, and it tugs at enough of his sense and logic to remind him what he's doing, to drag himself out of the residual terror of a child's careless, curiosity-fueled mistake, to drop the memory of a spider's egg sac to the ground, and to stagger off in the direction of running footsteps, fuming with embarrassment. Falling for something this obvious, they obviously knew he was there from the start, and grasping angrily outwards, a bound around the corner, a leap to the side, and he catches onto the hem of Sanders' t-shirt just as the snake man throws open a door to nowhere with a great outward sweep of his arm, and they all tumble through like dominoes, one after the other. And then it all gets far too confusing and abstract for Steele's taste. He doesn't let go of Sanders' shirt, but it's like they're weakless and weighed down at all the same time before they crash directly into a place that's all hard edges, a flash of blinding light, and no shadows that scorches at his eyes like a shot of pure rationality to the brain. No, if we get off here, there's no point into any of this. Let's go to... oh, no. Door slams open, door closes, 2 seconds in the next place that feels stretched out to their maximum potential, and it feels like falling in motion forever. We can't let him into Virgil's room, can we? No, we can't. Thomas, do you trust me? A moment of hesitation. Yes, of course. Deep breath, then. And then Steele is in the most normal room they've been through so far. A staircase leading upwards just to his left, some couches, a television, blinds pulled down to cover windows shining faintly to conceal sunlight. Sanders is standing in front of him, and the snake man is nowhere to be seen. Thomas, says Steele, intending to at least try to salvage the situation, now that he's got him on his own. But the words warp and spiral from his mouth like spun silk, twisting against itself, and every possible meaning of his words, spoken and unspoken, and thought and considered and buried, fans outwards to pull all around him. And he thinks, this isn't right, and that fractals out into a splintering of shadow thoughts, glistening and refracting at and against each other like crushed false diamonds. Gotcha, says Sanders, or maybe it's more like, I'm sorry, or, what's happening? I don't understand, or, I'm looking forward to forgetting this entirely the moment I'm gone from here. He's grinning, weeping, staring, stuttering, and he turns like a key in the lock, and the room clicks shut around him. Steele doesn't understand what's going on, understands everything in perfect clarity, never understood anything at all, but he thinks he can see Sanders already, crumbling into a dead faint, falling to his knees, leaning back against the wall and reaching uncontrollably, reaching a hand upwards, as he calls out a name that's so layered and meaningful in every conceivable sense that it's completely impossible, unthinkable, horrifyingly simple to understand. Steele is frozen in place in unthinkable animal terror, unspooling at the seams, being picked apart with a needle, raveling and screaming and thrashing on the ground, dashing across the room to tackle Sanders to the ground, but either or, and he has just enough time to think, trap, it's a trap, when a hand, or 2, or 4, or 6, or a cane or staff comes from above, below, to the side, out of impossibility, and seizes onto Sanders' own, and a million possible events happen at once, the conclusion of which is inevitably that Sanders is gone, was never there, was always there, and always will be. And now the room is not a room, is a room, was never a room, and all sense of rationality are gone, and it's all converging around him. He fumbles for a gun that is not a gun, and tries to point it at his head on the off chance that the kick will happen just as he needs it, but it's not his head anymore, and he can't remember if the hand that holds his not gun is his hand or not. A word to the wise, my dear Mr. Charles, says Janus, who is the most real thing left in the world anymore. He fits into his room like a nesting doll, layers upon layers centering all on him. The next time you try and invade someone's head for any reason at all, do try to dream a little bigger. Hitting you with a nuclear warhead when you came armed with a slingshot seems more than a little unfair, but needs must, I suppose. And then Janus is gone, like the ghost of a lie, and Steele reaches event horizon, and it all closes in around him, and he is crushed like a butterfly's wing. And the rest is eternity and limbo both. Thank you so much for listening to this podfic. All artwork in this video is made by yours truly. Please check out the writer, IbisPaint. All of her fanfics are great. Bye. Hopefully see you later.